that way in other aspects of your life. But this is the power of sport. If you can learn to be dedicated and responsible in sport, whether you make a career of playing professional sport or not, you'll be developing essential life skills. Je m'appelle David Petroziello. Je suis Canadien, originaire de la province de Québec, alors québécois. Je suis un entraîneur et dirigeant sportif maintenant depuis plus de 25 ans à l'échelle internationale. Et j'aime beaucoup voyager avec le sport, beaucoup rencontrer des différentes personnes, des différentes cultures à travers le sport. Et je crois beaucoup à l'importance du sport dans notre société. Et voilà une des raisons pour laquelle je me retrouve ici aujourd'hui. So my involvement in basketball started really young. I started to play basketball and become exposed with sports really as a kid growing up. You know, both my parents played basketball when they were growing up. My dad played in college in the United States, played in high school, and my mother played growing up as well. I basically, was exposed to the game at a really young age, and I was really fortunate. I was really fortunate enough to get some great coaches to play for. I played for, a great high school coach. Played for good coaches in college, and my dad really did he was my first coach, right? He coached me in baseball, coached me in basketball, and he had a great perspective on the game that, I carry forward to this day. So I grew up in Quebec City, born and raised there, came up in the game of basketball in Quebec City, went to school in the city at English schools. So I went to St. Vincent's Elementary, St. Patrick's High School, and I ended up going to St. Lawrence College as well, which is an English school in Quebec, an English college in Quebec. Basically I kind of grew up in this environment where we were all busy with sports and we just played sport a lot. I played baseball, which was probably my best sport as an athlete. I was a pretty good baseball player. I could really hit the ball and I had a good hand-eye coordination. I was a good fielder, a good hitter. So I did play baseball a lot, and basketball were my main sports. I swam a little bit as well, but basically always just growing up surrounded by sport. My mother was on the National Board of Directors for Synchro Canada, for what is now artistic swimming. And my sister is an internationally accredited synchronized swimming coach. She coached in Geneva for 3 years. She's coached in different parts of the world as well. And we just kind of grew up in this academic, educational environment around sport. It was really a big part of our lives. And my journey through basketball really has taken me everywhere, even inside the province. I'm kind of like the Larry Brown of Quebec. I've coached at a bunch of different programs, right? It was really cool when we put together all the logos of the schools where I've coached. But when you start counting them, you realize, man, that's a lot of places, and I kind of had more of an American mindset when it comes to the way that I, approach the game, the way that I coach the game, the way that I think about even my career when I was a young coach. Really more American than anything else, which is, go succeed as much as possible, look for, a bigger opportunity. And so I did that a lot. I coached all over Quebec, in Quebec City, in Montreal, down in the eastern townships of Quebec in the Sherbrooke region. Eventually I left the province to go to graduate school, to go take a master's degree in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is all the way on the west coast of Canada. And while I was there, I was an assistant coach with the men's basketball team. I met the woman who would become my wife there as well. We've been married 15 years now. Just this past May was our 15th wedding anniversary. And we have 3 amazing children that are right now in Indonesia with my wife as we are launching a program there in Jakarta in Indonesia, and they went there in advance of me. I'll be going there from Paris. Basically I got to BC. I was a student. I was a coach. And I kind of got like a really neat opportunity to be a general manager and head coach of a new professional team. It started out being I was going to be the general manager and we were going to hire a head coach. And the head coach who we hired, who coached Team Canada, he had some health issues. And so couldn't continue with the season, or couldn't even begin the season really. And the owner of the team ended up asking me if I wanted to be the head coach as well as the GM. And I kind of got thrust into this situation of coaching, pros for the first time at a pretty young age. I mean, I was pretty young, just barely 30. Working with guys that had played for some of the legends of the game in college. And they're now standing across from me, that really taught me some important lessons. One of which is just do whatever it is that you're going to do it. Just do it. I'm not #Nike, but like just do it. I got put into that situation and I just had to figure it out, and I did. And I had a great time there. And then since then, it's been just a range of other opportunities that have taken us through across Canada as a university head coach. I've been an director of athletics. I've been faculty at colleges, and I've taught courses in sport management and leadership coaching. I've been a university head coach. I've been, a pro head coach. We've been to Australia twice to coach in the pro environment down there and to work with clubs, which I love. I love working with local associations and clubs to help change the game on a ground level for young kids and whatnot. We even got the opportunity to go to India, and we went to India and spent just about 8 weeks, a little under 8 weeks there, working with players from around the country in their national program, which was an incredible experience. I don't know when I would have otherwise gone to India, but we were there, and that was a blessing as well. So the game has been really good to us. And I do think that one of the reasons why the game has been so good to us is because we respect the game and we respect the people in the game. We're good to the game. We're good to the people, the culture. We respect people, and it's like putting good into the universe, and it comes back to you, So that's a little bit of my story. Like, there's obviously lots of elements in each of these places. But all of that has brought us to where I coach a professional team in North America in the Basketball Super League. I'm the general manager of that team as well. And we have a company called Hive Mind Sports Solutions that now works in countries around the world, trying to impact sport, impact coaching, impact players, and impact communities through the power of sport. And it started with just me living on the South Shore of Quebec City, just growing up in that environment, and it's taken us around the world. So we're very, very fortunate and very, very grateful for that. When I was very young, my coaches told me that I would become a coach. And I always looked at coaches as people who had a responsibility to help others. And when you're in school and you do the psychological frameworks and you do the testing and it tells you like what type of personality you are, I always scored very high on protective and helping, service, right? And so I feel a responsibility as a coach to serve the people that I am working with. And my coaches told me that, you're going to be a coach, so you should pay attention to what I'm doing, because it's going to be you one day. And I played, and I was a good player. I started on my teams. I was a good player, but I wasn't an exceptional player. I was never going to earn a living playing. Baseball, like I said, was the best sport. That was a sport I could have pursued potentially. But basketball, no. I was a good high school and college player, but I was definitely not, beyond that. But basketball caught my soul. Like it is a sport that is so organic and fluid and natural when it's played right, that once I experienced that and I saw that, and I was like being exposed to that through my dad and my coaches and my family, I wanted that. I wanted to experience that. There was something different about basketball than about football, American football, or about baseball, or about, swimming or hockey, things like that. There was something just different about basketball. And so I think I always kind of just knew that I was going to want to try and be a coach, for all of those reasons. And when I started to hit my ceiling, I got hurt, and it kind of just forced my hand to make the move into coaching. So I started coaching really young. I was like 19 years old, and I was coaching a college team, guys that I had played against, and that was a real experience where, once again, I needed to demonstrate that I knew what I was doing. I needed to demonstrate that I cared about their success. I actually think that coaching that young, and peers, like guys that were my age and a couple that were older, it actually made me much better as a coach, especially now, because it forced me to be intentional about demonstrating my service to them. If I just did things that made me feel good, this is part of what I try to teach as coaches today. If you do things that make you feel good, you're missing the point of what it is that we do. Ranting, screaming, raving, and don't get me wrong, I scream, I'm very animated, I'm very loud, but I try to make that about what they need rather than what I need. And as a young coach, it's easy to make it about you. It's a lot harder to make it about them, because you don't have the experience and you're afraid that they might doubt you and things like that. And the only way to do it is to just do it. Just do it. And so I think I knew from an early age, I gravitated into leadership roles, and I was consistently a leader on my team, captains and things like that. And the other thing is, my family was a family of educators. Both my parents were teachers. My older sister is a coach. And it was just like, that's just a thing. So I loved growing up in that environment, and I wanted to continue to compete. And I love building teams. Ultimately, I think my coaching philosophy is about unification. It's about unifying people. I want to bring people together. People from like different backgrounds, different cultures, different ages, different socioeconomic backgrounds. I want to bring people together, and that's what sport does, and that's how I coach. Don't matter who you are, where you come from. The ball loves everybody the same. It's 100% the same. And so that is like a really important part of why I do what I do. And I just, I think I had that conviction early on that this was a way for me to maybe make a little bit of a difference, right? Try to help people achieve objectives and reach their dreams, and do it in a way that I enjoy. I enjoy coaching, so I enjoy building teams. I enjoy bringing people together. So it's not really work, right? It sucks to lose, and you play, you win, you lose, whatever the outcome is. But I think the journey that we take together as a team of people, or as a program, or whatever you do, I think it's just so important to be able to keep it to your core principles and values. And I think for me, I had that growing up. That was just a part of who I was. And I knew early on that maybe that's an opportunity for me to keep those things important and to bring that to other people. And coaching is the way that I found a way to make that happen. I've had a lot of great moments over my career. I've had a lot of really good people that have been around me, and a lot of really good teams. So I have a couple different answers for that. The first answer that I would give is I can go all the way back to like 2001, where I was coaching at a school in Montreal. And this program, a high school, was playing at the top level of high school basketball in the province. And for the first time ever, we made the playoffs. And I just remember the pride that the people felt. And that felt really good. And I was really pleased that I was able to contribute to that happening, because the people were like excited. So that's one thing that I remember. That's the one thing that stands out to me. In 2012, I went to coach in Australia, and I ended up coaching a women's team, a Pro 2 women's team. And this was a program that had not won in over 3 years. They had not won a single game in over 3 years. I wish I could say that we ran the table and that we won a championship. That's not true. But we won some games, and a lot of the games that we did lose, we were very competitive in. I'm really proud of that, because that helped to change the culture of the environment. And the bond that we created with that group, was so strong, and they bought into the vision so well. I'm super proud of that group, super proud. And I still talk with many of them, even to this day. We had a very tragic ending to that season. We lost 2 athletes in a car accident, which was just hours after our final game, which was that's another major experience in my career. That, is still with me to this day. But I'm really proud of the way that team came together and performed, and came together and stayed together after the accident. And so I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that. And I mean, it was there. That's not because I made it happen. They knew each other beforehand. They had some experience with each other, obviously, but we had done something during that season to bond them even more, and to create this environment where they could just rely on each other like that. So I'm really, really proud of that. I'm really proud of that. I would also say that I'm super happy to have ongoing relationships with a lot of my former players. That makes me happy. So you ask about what a proud moment. I'm proud of that. Every time a player texts me and asks me a question, or just checks in and be like, "How's the family?" I'm proud of that because it means that I connected with them somehow on a human level. And I think in even again, as I talk to coaches, like, you're not coaching a basketball player. You're coaching a human being who plays basketball with some of his time during the week or her time during the week. And so building a relationship is really the essence of what servant leadership is, of what coaching is. I'm really proud of that every moment. Every moment I get that, it makes me so happy that a former player would think of me. I might have coached him 15 years ago, right? That makes me proud of the work that we did and the environment that we created that made people feel comfortable, that made people feel invested, and that made people feel like I can trust Coach P. Like, he's got my back, because I do. You know, that makes me proud every time that happens. Well, I can tell you right now, the biggest challenge by far was the situation we had with an accident that took two of our players in Australia in 2012, August 19th, 2012. We had played our final game of the season. We did not make the playoffs that year. We won the program won its first games in like 3 seasons. It was a good year. But unfortunately, traveling back to our city, there was an accident that killed two of our players in kind of like in a country environment. It was a country road. And my wife and I and our baby, who is now 11 years old, we were traveling separately in our own vehicle to the team because we had the baby. And we came to the accident. We came to a place where a person said, "You can't go on here. You have to go this way." So we're like, okay. But she had spoken so loudly into the car that she woke the baby up, Domenico. And he was like crying. And this whole time, I had no service on the cell phone because we were in the bush. So I pulled over to the side. We attend to the baby, and my phone gets service, and my phone starts dinging like crazy. And it's my captain who calls me. And she told me basically that there had been an accident and that two of our players, Stephanie and Stacy, did not survive that accident. And in the car was another one of our players and her 2 children. And so at that moment, you know, we kind of realized that that's our people. And so we, you know, basically run back and we're asking about the kids. And it turns out that the 2 children and their mother survived. But the 2 players, you know, Steph and Stacy did not. There is nothing that prepares you for that. Absolutely nothing. There is no way to be prepared for that. You know, it's almost, God forbid, it's like losing a child, right? Like there's no parent in the world that prepares for that. You don't even want to think about it, right? And obviously as coaches, we don't ever consider that as a thing that might happen. And so, you know, we were still several hours from home. You know, the team was still with the bus at the other venue because the men's team had to play. And basically by the time we got back to our city, we actually met the 2 children and their mom at the hospital. We waited for them to be transported and we met them there. We were the first people they saw after that. I can still remember the color of the brick in the hospital, in this country hospital in Queensland, Australia. I can remember the room. I remember as if it was yesterday. By the time we got back to the city and I met my staff, the bus had gotten there first after all that. and they waited for me at the arena. It was maybe 2:00 in the morning. And at 8:30 in the morning, my assistant coach was at my house, and we went to Aldi. We went shopping, and by 9:30, we had the whole team at our house, and basically nobody left. We had them. It was a major event in the community. Major events, media coverage around the country. Obviously very important to the smaller communities around us as well, because they were both from a smaller community just outside the city. And so, like, being in that environment, the only thing that you can turn to is, first of all, you turn to your faith, right? So for me, like, I turned to God, and I was like, man, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do right now. And you just have to trust that you're going to figure out what you're supposed to do. I turned to my mentors as well. Back in Canada, time zones were helpful in that situation because it was the middle of the night, but I could get people. And, one of my mentors, she told me, she had coached our national team in Canada, and to the Olympics and things like that. But she had told me that when she was an athlete back in college, she had lost a teammate in a car accident. And so she just told me a little bit about what they went through. And that was very helpful. It was actually very helpful. So again, it's this idea of a team, this idea of a community. You lean on other people, right? You're never alone. You're never alone. You're only alone if you choose to be alone. And there are some things that are just far too heavy, far too difficult to do by yourself. So, we kept everybody at the house. We had people come in and talk. There were community meetings. There were funerals. One of the families asked me to speak at a funeral at the funeral. We got through it by doing what teams do, which is come together, stay together, help each other, serve each other, love each other. And as tragic as that was, it obviously changed everybody's life after that. And it brought people together. And people have had to, deal with that in the years since. Particularly because the accident was so catastrophic because the driver of the other vehicle had some modifications on his car that were illegal. A protective bar on the front that was made out of steel. So it just ripped right through the car instead of disintegrating the way that it should. So it made everybody feel like, obviously tragedies do happen, but some of them are avoidable, and that was an avoidable one. So when I talk to players or coaches or whoever, businesses, and we talk about like the importance of decisions, right? Like the decisions that you make, it's like putting a stone into the lake. You don't know where the ripples are going to go. You don't know. It could go off this way, it could go off that way, and you don't know where it's going to go at the end of it. And every decision that we make is a stone in the lake that causes ripples. And we can't think about the ripples because there's no way to know where the ripples go. But the only thing we can do is think about the decision. That's what we can think about. We can control what we do, our decisions. So being in the moment and trying to, do our best to make good decisions, but we have to accept that we just never know. Every decision will go in whatever direction. We might think it's the right decision. It might end up being the wrong decision. We don't know that. But if you invest your time and energy into the decision, you got to live with whatever happens next. That experience, overcoming that, I wouldn't even say overcoming, because I haven't gotten over it. But getting through it required It required people around us. And I'm proud to say that my team from that moment, they really leaned on me, on my wife, on the culture that we had created within our team, on our environment of trust and safety. And that's how we got through. That's how we got through that experience, was by turning to each other and just being like, the only way out is through, and the only way through is together. So I would say for sure that is by far the absolute biggest challenge as a coach, as a man, and as a leader that I've ever had to face in my career. Honestly, I think like every single day, every single situation is just an opportunity for us to see what we have more to give. And what motivates me is my family. My family motivates me to keep pushing, to keep trying to see new horizons, new challenges. I love building. I love going into an environment that needs to be built in a different way than maybe the way that it had been done. I love being a part of something new. And, that building process is really, really exciting to me. And I've built programs pretty much everywhere I've been, has been a process of creation, and building of success and habits and things like that, like a pattern of success within the program, within the culture. What motivates me to keep doing that is, in that way, is my wife and I, we want our children, first of all, to get the opportunity to experience new places. So we're always looking for the right sort of fit for us, where our kids can, learn a different culture, live in a different city, different country, meet different people. And, it's funny because we were just talking about this as I said, my family just arrived in Jakarta, Indonesia. And Hive Mind, we have a project there. We're launching a club in Jakarta, and they've arrived. Jakarta is very different to what my children would have experienced so far. They've lived in Canada, different parts of Canada for sure, but still in Canada. They've Domenico lived in Australia when he was just a little baby. So whether it's in Vancouver, Quebec City, or Nova Scotia, or Alberta, different places, but you're still within Canada, But living in Indonesia is a completely different thing. It's very different. Going to the States, yeah, it's the States. It's different. Coming to Europe, of course, it's different. But coming to France, or coming to Spain, or Portugal, or England, there's still a lot of things that are very similar to life in Canada. And Indonesia is very different. And it's a beautiful difference. It's a beautiful difference. Because learning to respect the difference is a big part of being us in our family. It's very important to us. My wife is Indo-Fijian. I'm French-Italian. We are a mixed couple, and there's already difference within our family. And I think developing this acceptance and recognition and valuing of somebody else's life and reality. The way you do things is not normal. The way you do things cannot be normal, because that makes everyone else not normal. The way you do things is the way you do things. And the way they do things is the way they do things. Okay? So staying motivated to keep pushing past things and trying new things and growing new projects and seeding new opportunities and things like that. It's our kids, because we want them, on the one hand, to get a chance to experience, new things in different places and respect that. But the other thing we want them to learn is we want them to see us unafraid. We want them to see us pushing limits. The world is going to change like 25 more times before they get to my age, right? The world's changing every day. We don't know what the world's going to be like in 5 years, let alone 2 years. And only people who are comfortable with change and challenge, I believe, are going to be able to navigate those waters successfully. And we want our kids to be like that. So they see us. Sure, I'm a coach. We're entrepreneurs. We're, socially conscious. We are like whatever it is that we do. But really what it is this comfort with change, this comfort with challenge. And like kind of riding with the wave. And sometimes you just don't know where the wave is going to go, but you still got to ride it. I have to say, like, I am incredibly impressed by the resilience that my kids have. They left Las Vegas and they went on like a 2-day travel nonstop to get to Indonesia. And I mean, they're kids, so it's like, they're tired and hungry and everything else. But they had this positivity about it still, that I think is really, really important, really impressive. And honestly, I feel like everybody has that. Everybody has that inside of them. The children especially. We should take our children and we should equip them with experiences. And I think we'd be shocked to see how well they respond to that, And so that's what motivates me. That's what motivates me to keep going, keep challenging myself. Someone says, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about, A, B, or C. Would you like to come live in this place and do this?" And I'm like, I'll talk to everybody, because just that, having that conversation ignites a questioning and a learning about things that we might not otherwise know. And it's definitely my family, definitely my children. That's what motivates me to do everything that I do. The first thing that I would say to any athlete, young athlete that has a dream, that has a goal, the number one thing that I would tell them is, it's good to have a dream. It's good to have a goal. Believe that your goal is possible. Believe that your dream can come true. If you don't believe it's a real possibility, then you're going to prove yourself right. You're going to prove yourself right. You have to believe. You have to believe so strongly that it's like a matter of when and not if. You have to live your life that way. And if you live your life with that sort of conviction that it's just delayed, not canceled, then you are going to act in a way that puts you in the position to where it might actually happen. But if you don't believe, nobody backs their way in by accident to really, really high levels of success in anything, really. But in particular in sport. You can't backpedal your way into a professional life as an athlete, okay? You have to go forward. You have to chase it. You have to run hard for it every single day. You have to believe that it's possible. If you believe it's possible, you can make it possible. If you don't believe it's possible, you're going to prove yourself right. So that is the first thing that I would say is you must believe in your own dream. And if you believe in your dream, then you need to also accept that for your dream to come true, for your goal to be met, you have to make it happen. And if you make it happen, if you think that you're going to make it happen, you then say to yourself, I don't control everything about this. I don't give myself an opportunity and then take my own opportunity. I need an opportunity from someone else. I need a scholarship offer. I need a contract. I need to get selected into a team by someone else. I don't select myself into the team. So, and once you make that recognition that you don't control everything, it allows you to focus entirely on controlling what you control. And what that is yourself. You control your work. You control your preparation. You control your routines. You control your life habits. You control your mindset. You control what you put in to the process of chasing your own dream. It can't be someone else's dream. And it can't be someone else that does the work. It has to be yourself who has a dream, your dream. You have to believe that it's true, that it's possible. You have to believe it's possible. Once you believe it's possible, you have to do the work. No one else can do it for you. And you have to control what you can control because you cannot control everything. And ultimately, you might not reach your dream. You might not reach your goal. But if you apply yourself with utter conviction that you are capable of achieving it, you are going to finish way further ahead than where you started. Whether you achieve what you set out to achieve or not, you will finish way ahead of where you started. Guaranteed. And then you will go on from there. Because you accept that you don't control everything. So control what you can control. Get the right habits, get the right lifestyle, get the right mindset, get the right routine. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you are an undedicated, undisciplined person in one aspect of your life, chances are you're going to be that way in other aspects of your life. But this is the power of sport. If you can learn to be dedicated and responsible in sport, whether you make a career of playing professional sport or not, you'll be developing essential life skills that you can then apply in your profession as a teacher or a lawyer or a coach or a doctor or a bus driver. It doesn't matter. You can apply those lessons in your life, but only if you believe, you own it, it's yours. You control what you can control, and you dedicate yourself to it entirely and completely. And you'd be surprised how many individuals who are successful because they went on a little bit longer than someone else. A lot of people just stop when it gets hard. And maybe some push on a little bit past into hard, but then it becomes harder. And a lot of them stop. And then some of them keep pushing past hard and harder into hardest. But then more people stop. And it's the ones that can keep going because they believe in it so much. They're not any different. They just kept going longer than someone else. So I would say absolutely belief, absolutely, owning that and taking accountability for that. It's mine. I believe it. I'm going to make it happen. Understanding that you don't control everything. So control what you can control and go after it. Go after it like you need it to breathe. You need it to breathe. There's an element of desperation into success in sport. It is so competitive but every single person who's ever made it anywhere started off just like the rest of us. And in our sport of basketball, of course, there are physiques and things like that change. If I had worked as hard as Giannis worked, that doesn't mean I'm Giannis, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm not 6'10" and built like a statue. Okay. But if I had gone after it the way that he had gone after it, wherever it is I would have ended up further than where I was. And that could have prepared me for other things. So I think that advice is something I try to share as much as possible with young people, athletes or not, because whether sport is your career or sport is your learning lab, sport can change your life if you take away the right lessons. Yeah. Resilience and dedication, and, overcoming difficulty, that takes a lot of, we say heart or we say toughness. But really what it is to me is an insatiable appetite for challenge. So this value of, like, you have to seek out the difficult things. Don't look for easy things. Look for hard things. It might be a little crazy to say that. Like, why would I do things that are hard when I can do something that is easier? Nothing ever great was done easy. Everything great was done hard. That's what makes it great. Everything easy, anybody can do. That value of being ready to commit to it, that, insatiable appetite for hard things. I tell guys all the time, walk onto a court anywhere you go. It doesn't even matter. It could be at the gym, open gym, at the community center. Look around you, find the player that is the best player on the floor and go guard that person. And tell them to guard you if you can. And when you find somebody else with that mindset, that's when you're really going to get better. Instead of going to find the weakest link so that you can make yourself feel good in an environment that doesn't really matter. So important values of that are humility. You have to be humble. You have to believe that there are people that can teach you things. Other players that can beat you. Coaches that can teach you something. You need humility in this thing, and not walk around with a false sense of arrogance, right? False sense of security or confidence. Fake confidence is one of the worst things in sport. Confidence based on what? Just an image in your mind of who you think you are, as opposed to the reality of who you are based on what you do. That's really all we are. We are who we are based on what we do, not what we think we are. So humility is very important. Self-awareness is very important. I can't go left. I can't go right. Well, today at the open gym, I'm only going to go left. I'm only going to go right. Sure, I can shoot from 3, but I can't really create off the dribble. So I might be wide open, but I'm going to try and find creation opportunities. I got to be self-aware of what my game is and what my game is not. I need to be humble to say, like, I don't have it figured out. I got to learn. People can teach me. These are very, very important values that allow you to then say, if I'm humble and I know that I'm not perfect, and I'm self-aware and I know that I have flaws in my game, that means I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. It's inevitable. Humility, self-awareness, it provides the right ingredients for you to be resilient, for you to overcome those failures, because the failures are going to happen. It's not a surprise when you make a mistake. you don't go out there expecting mistakes. You don't go wanting mistakes, but they're going to happen. And so that allows you to kind of get into the space where you can overcome that. And that is extremely important. A lot of people stop. A lot of young players stop. They're afraid of the mistake. They're afraid they're going to look bad in front of their friends. They're afraid the coaches are going to look at them and say, well, I don't want that dude. He makes too many mistakes. And of course, if you make too many mistakes, there's a reason for that. That means you're probably not working on the right things. You're not putting in enough time to work on the right things. You need to be really good at the things that you do a lot of. So if you have to pass, dribble, and shoot, you better get really good at doing that. These are really important values that, to me, are beneath everything else. The foundation of that. And the last one that I'll mention right now is gratitude. Gratitude. We got to be grateful for those learning environments, for those failures. And it also, one thing that I believe very strongly is this idea that gratitude is the antidote to entitlement. Entitlement where, I deserve this, people owe me this because of A, B, or C. That's being entitled and not understanding that you got to go out and earn whatever it is that you're trying to get. You got to earn that. Gratitude keeps you humble. Gratitude helps you recognize the blessings you do have and the opportunities that you have. And it fights entitlement. So really, humility and self-awareness, gratitude, they don't really sound like sporting, values. And in some ways, they're not. They're human values. But behind every athlete is a human being. And behind every team is a group of human beings. And so if you have the right values that you bring with you in this way, what you end up having is this incredible environment of safety, trust, experimentation, right? Where people are not afraid to grow themselves in a way that makes them better. And I think those are critically important to reaching any sort of objectives that someone might have in sport. What I would love to see happen within sport is a recentering of sport on the human in the sport. So sometimes we spend a lot of time thinking about how are we going to organize sport? What is the structure that we are going to have that will, be the parameters of the game, or what type of structures can we put in place? I think that more important than that is the human values that people need to have inside of the organization. An organization is nothing but lines on a paper, if not for the people that are in the organization. So I would love to see sport recenter itself around the experience of the participants. That's the athletes and the coaches and the administrators and the referees, okay? The people that work the sport, that are participating in the sport. Making it about them and not about what the corporate structure requires. I think we've gotten away from that in lots of ways. We've forgotten what the reality on the ground is for people that are trying to make a difference, that are in the gym or in the rink or in the pool. We don't think about the people. So I would love to see that. And I would love to see an investment in helping coaches become leaders of people and not teachers of a sport. The technical and tactical aspects of a sport. How do we become leaders of people? Because the truth of the matter is that you can win. Let's take basketball, for example. You can become very good at basketball a million different ways. You could have a team that everyone's a shooter. You could have a team where no one's a shooter. You could still win. You can win in different ways. It's not about what type of offense you run. It's about what type of people are together. So teaching coaches to value the person, center the athlete. I think there's a wave of that happening right now. Athlete-centered coaching, Okay. Even from a learning environment in terms of small-sided games and teaching games for understanding, I think sport is more and more moving in that direction. The problem is that a lot of it is at the higher levels. It's at high levels where professional coaches have the time and the resources to educate themselves, to take the best ideas and to apply them. What we don't do a good enough job as really across the planet. Some good examples are like New Zealand. They do a good job. They're a very small country, obviously. Some of the Scandinavian countries do pretty good as well. But what we don't generally do a good job of is taking these ideas and mobilizing the knowledge for the people on the ground. The U13, U14 coach who gets 2 practices a week with their team and doesn't really know, didn't play, might be a parent trying to help out at the club. How can we help that person? Because the 10 kids on that team, they're still people and they deserve a great experience, right? And that's what motivates us at HiveMind. That is part of what motivates us to try and demystify all of this like big time information and really make it simple. It's simple for us on the ground. We can coach a under 10 team or have a session where those kids feel valued. We are coaching them and reaching them where they are. And we are helping them get better by discovering different elements of the game based on their age and everything else. We can do that. We don't need to be at a pro level in order for that to happen. We can take that knowledge and bring it down. And I really believe that that's happening, but it's happening too slowly. It's happening too slowly. We need more mobilization at the ground level, at local clubs like here and elsewhere, where the coaches, they want to do a good job. They want the kids to have a great time. They want them to get better and they want them to compete. That's possible to do. You can do that, but they need resources and information in order to help them become better. And that's what I would like to see sport become better at: sharing resources, sharing information, and sharing expertise. Because it's going to make a huge difference across the board, for sure. I mean, I have a lot of different objectives with basketball. There's no doubt. I want to see the game become more popular in a lot of different places. I want to see the quality of the game improve. I want to see more kids playing better basketball. Of course, personally, now I coach at a professional level. And I want to compete and I want to win, championships and, build an environment and a culture where people have all of those feelings of empowerment and trust and performance. It's a major part of what drives me to compete at the pro level. Because if you take people that are skilled and competitive and aware of themselves and of the game and put them into that type of environment, those are the best programs. You look at Golden State, you look at other examples across the world, and I want to do that. I want to demonstrate that it's possible for that to happen outside of the Golden State Warriors or the San Antonio Spurs or some of the very, very best. I think Europe is an incredibly exciting market. I'm very excited to be here with Hive and to be, delivering some programs right now here this summer. We'll be back in the fall. I do hope that we create strong partnerships with European clubs that will allow for an exchange of ideas and an exchange of expertise so that we can make some of that impact on the ground. And our projects are very varied as well with Hive. In Indonesia, as I said, we're launching a program there. We're in other parts of the world, in North Africa and Australia and in the United States and in a range of different places. And I think every time we go somewhere, people get excited about the work that we do because I think it's just simple, authentic, genuine stuff. And, I don't know what the future will hold, but I wouldn't be surprised if I was, living and coaching in different parts of the world, including Europe or elsewhere sometime in the next little while. Because again, going all the way back to what we talked about earlier, like that change and that excitement to build something and to meet new people and for the family to experience that's a major part of who we are. So our upcoming projects are very exciting. And they're also quite varied. I can be coaching a pro team here, and over here, I'm developing a youth program for kids age 5 through 20, right? A club. And I really enjoy that. So Hive Mind has got some really, really neat things happening. I couldn't be more grateful for the range of partners that we've got. The projects are really cool. And I'm kind of excited to see what the future holds for us through all of that. Whew. I mean, I got to start MJ. MJ is the GOAT. Definitely the GOAT. Let's just say, do I have to choose guys that are like my position? Do I have to build a team or just my... All right, my top 5. All right, so I'm going to go MJ for sure. I got Kobe on that list. I've got, I got Magic on that list. I grew up, I got to say Shaq. I got Shaq on that list. I mean, I know, old heads are going to be like, what about Wilt and what about Kareem and Bill Russell and stuff like that? But that's before my time. Shaq is like the most dominant big dude I've ever seen. And honestly, like, I gotta say Steph, man, because like that dude has changed the game. So I don't know if they're the 5 best players of all time, but to me, they're the 5 guys that have completely impacted the game at every level. Now, LeBron is in that group as well, so I might cheat and have a 6th guy, and that'll be LeBron. But, whether it's LeBron or Steph or whatever, like they're all, yeah. If I don't have to choose a team, it makes it harder because otherwise I'd have to choose by position. But those are guys that I would have to say are right there. I have to think carefully because I'm going to hear about this for sure. Honestly, I think that we should get a standard set of rules that includes the United States. This past season, we play NBA rules in the Pro League over there, and there are a lot of things about the NBA rules that make the game more fun and more enjoyable to watch. So I would say, first of all, I think we should play 48 minutes. I think a 48-minute game is a better game than a 40-minute game. I think we should play 6 fouls. I think we should play the longer 3-point line. I think that makes the game better. I think FIBA has a lot of rules that are really good, like playing the ball on the rim. I think that's a good one. There are others as well. I think that creates more spacing, better. The defensive 3-second rule is actually a pretty good rule as well because it creates lots of lanes to the basket. So there's a range there, but if I had to choose one, I'm actually going to add a line, and it's going to be a 4-point line. I would add a 4-point line out, a ways. It seems crazy to me that Dame and Steph and these guys only get 3 points for shooting from 30 feet. Like, it's crazy. I think that should not be the same as shooting from right up to the line. And the one thing that has taught me, that I've learned, I should say, through the way the game has evolved, is that these rules, they shouldn't be made to restrict. In my opinion, the rules should be made to shape. They shape the game. People were still shooting from the 3-point line when there was no 3-point line. But when you put a 3-point line in, over time, people develop the skill to shoot effectively from there. Shooting 35% from three, that's better than shooting a higher percentage right at the rim. You get more points. And over time, more people became effective shooters. Same thing with the wider paint, right? Like with the wider paint, that changed the game. It changed the spacing. So if you put a 4-point line in, like it's kind of crazy, it's not going to happen. But if you put a 4-point line in, more people are going to become better at playing that way. And it's going to change the game even more. So it's kind of a fun one. I'm not recommending it necessarily, but that's just one that I would like to see. That'd be kind of fun. Muhammad Ali. End of story. From a sports person's perspective, I mean, what Muhammad Ali had to endure in the United States as a prominent person with his social justice and other, the things, the causes that he was involved in, I just think it would be an incredibly interesting conversation. From a sports person's perspective, that's if I had the chance to like sit down with him, when he was alive, obviously that would have been an incredible conversation to have. I would have had a ton of questions for him. I mean, again, trying to choose only one, that's really hard because I feel like there are so many really impressive players and coaches. I'm fascinated by Joker. Joker and Doncic have done more to change the game than a lot of other guys, and in ways that people don't realize, because here are exactly the types of players that a number of years ago people would have said can't play, not athletic enough, don't measure well, can't do this, can't do that, slow. But they are so smart and effective at what they do that they've opened up the opportunity now for other people like that to play the game at a high level. So that really, really impresses me. That they've been able to fight against the current and get to where they are. And look at them now. I mean, obviously Luka as a kid was dominating EuroLeague. And he walks into the NBA and he hasn't won yet. And so hopefully he can evolve as well in his own game. And Joker, now he just won it. He's a maestro out there. Those guys are really impressive. I have to also say that LeBron is maybe a lot. There's a debate about LeBron maybe, but this guy is 6'9", 245. He with the game of a point guard, the willingness to pass, to make the right play, that I think people who don't understand the game complain about. They would rather he take a really bad shot than make the right play and get a good shot for a good shooter. Now, if he's passing to me, that's a mistake. But if he's passing to, a knockdown shooter, that's not that's the right play, right? He is like if you had to design a basketball player, he's like that guy. Because he's big, he's strong, he's quick, he's got skill, he can not shoot it great, but decently enough. And he plays unselfishly. So I think that's really impressive. And from a coaching perspective, Coach Pop in San Antonio, I really admire what he's done over the years. The way that those teams with Parker and Ginobili and Tim Duncan, and the way they played the game, that set the stage for how everyone plays the game. Really. And so that's really impressive. And he's still going, and now he's going to coach Wemby. And it's almost like a script out of a movie, right? It's a Hollywood script that, Wemby ends up with Pop. It's crazy. And hopefully that works out the way that everyone thinks it will. But, and I really do admire Steve Kerr as well. Steve Kerr has done a great job of bringing together such different personalities. I don't know if I could coach a guy like Draymond. I don't know if I'm equipped for that. Coaching a guy like Steph is easy because he's a great player. He's a great person. He's so humble. He just does whatever it needs, whatever the team needs. Draymond is a real challenge. I don't know if I could coach Draymond, right? Especially in the NBA where the players have so much liberty, so much power, right? And he has found a way to navigate that with them. And I admire that a lot because that is a difficult job. Difficult job. It helps to have Steph because Steph just sets the culture. So maybe I could figure out a way if I had Steph on my team too. But yeah, I admire those. There are so many great coaches and great players that it's kind of hard to select some. But I would say those are the ones that come to mind. I think in closing, I would encourage everybody to believe in themselves. And we often hear messages that are negative. We hear messages that are meant to take us down or to make us believe that we are somehow not good enough or less than or whatever, whether it's in the media or it's, people in our community or people at school or whatever the case is. People are always going to try to find a way to bring you down from where you are. And I want to encourage people to believe in themselves and to understand that you are capable of doing great things. Great things. You can do great things. So long as you try to do great things. In other words, not try to do great things and go out of your way. I got to do a great thing. No. Do little things. The little things will turn into great things. But you got to believe in yourself and that you are good enough to do that. It's not someone else will do that. Why not? Why not you? Why not you? Why couldn't you do that? I believe that you can do something great. And it could just be as simple as helping a neighbor. It could be as simple as picking up the trash around you. That might motivate someone else to be like, you know what? Like, I should be doing that too. And all of a sudden you made your place cleaner, right? It could be something as simple as that. That to me is a great thing. That's a great thing. Be nice to somebody you don't know in the metro, at the store. You could do great things every day by doing simple things well. And that's an encouragement that I just want to give everybody. You are good enough. We need you. We need you. The world needs you. And believe in yourself and go make it happen, man. Because if you believe in it, it can happen. You can make it happen for sure. And I hope everybody takes that to heart and finds a way to apply it in your own life, especially in sport. Sport is like the perfect environment because it's really, the stakes are not that high, right? Like it's a game. We want to win. We're disappointed when we lose, but it's not life or death, right? You get to go play a sport, every sport, any sport, multiple sports, and go learn how to do these things in an environment that is not high risk. Fail, succeed, work together, overcome your frustrations, okay? If you can learn how to do that in that environment, then you'll be able to carry that forward into anything else that you do later on, right? Don't give up. Believe in yourself. Embrace the struggle. Embrace the challenge. Do hard things, all right? You would be shocked to see where that could take you.